I got a lot of mixed feelings on this chapter, and I'll go into it more along with the review, but let's just say, surface level, this chapter's good, but it's when you start dissecting it where everything kind of does fall apart a little bit, but we'll get into it as we move along. And to start off, one thing I'll say right out of the gate, and something I did like that Horikoshi did, is that Izuku couldn't give Toga the response she wanted either. Like Toga basically flat out asked Izuku pretty much the exact same response that she'd asked Toga all the way back during the war, but of course Izuku he kind of fumbled exactly the same way Toga did. He couldn't give her the response she wanted. And I do like how this is putting Ochiko back into that spotlight of being the only one who really can kind of reason with her now, ironically enough, because she's the one who made that very same mistake. But the difference is she kind of understands the context of that mistake, whereas Izuku, he didn't fully understand what exactly she was even asking. And I will say as well, it is moments like what we got in this chapter where I do like how we're reminded that for as strong as Izuku is and for as far as he's come, he still has a few blind spots and isn't exactly infallible when it comes to his arguments with the villains, which might be a little bit jarring for some, and kind of just the fact that he hasn't changed might be a little frustrating as well. But I think it is still necessary to show that, yeah, Izuku doesn't exactly have all the answers. It shows he is still flawed in a lot of respects, and him kind of going in order to fight Shigaraki might be a bit of foreshadowing, in the sense where the fact that Izuku not only could not convince Toga but also left her with Ochiko is kind of now an argument in Shigaraki's favor. Like, this is a battlefield where every choice Izuku makes matters, and Shigaraki could say abandoning Toga and not staying to help her is far from the actions of a hero. Like, it does kind of give him a little bit more ammunition. That said, though, I do like how Sue tagging in for Izuku brought things full circle. Like, for Toga, everything kind of even though she said she loves Izuku, everything kind of began with Ochiko and Sue, so now, come what may, it's going to end with all three of them. And now, but that in itself, I think, also leads into the biggest problem I have with this chapter, which is that even though there's a lot I like about it, there was something that just felt tonally off. Like, the mood and atmosphere didn't match the events of what was going on within it. And even more than that, for however goofy and insecure Izuku can be, his initial reaction to what Toga said just felt completely out of place. And even more so, the narration about Izuku in the beginning of this chapter just was completely unnecessary, unneeded, and just it didn't even, like, it's kind of narration that, like, it didn't even, why was this even in here, kind of thing. Like, I get it. It's to remind us that through everything he's experienced, Izuku still is Izuku. He's retained who he is and the resolve for who he wants to be. But when you throw in that he's a damn nerd, that's where you lose me. Like, it's one of those things where it feels like Horikoshi is mocking his own main character now. And it's another reminder to me that after all is said and done, Horikoshi has a bit of explaining to do for how and why this sudden shift happened, because it just feels more and more like Horikoshi either hates working on this series now, or he's just grown tired, and it's a Togashi situation where the stress of working on the series is finally caught up with him, and that's why he's chosen to end it this year. I don't know, but little things like that opening narration really do make me say something has changed about Horikoshi himself, and I wish I knew what it was, because the artwork is still fine, but writing and pacing for this arc has just been all over the place since the Star and Stripes arc. And honestly, that's the only thing I do know for certain, is that for me, the Star and Stripes arc is where this final arc was destined to go off the rails, especially after Horikoshi announced the series was going to end with this year. But Okay, so I guess getting back, but anyway, I guess getting back to Toga, like Toga's like when you look at Toga's side of the argument with this thing, it's there's not much more to say there other than she really sees no purpose in existing as she is now. Like at this point, the only purpose Toga can find in continuing to live is to simply become someone else that's the only way in her mind that she can have a life anymore. And more so, what better way to do that than to live life with someone she loves, which yeah, I have to read it again. This is very much a confrontation where any form of fighting to me shouldn't even be happening. Like seriously, there's honestly no purpose in fighting someone who doesn't even have a reason to live anymore. Like Sue and Ochiko actually need to like convince Toga that there is still a reason for her to keep living as herself, not through others and not as others. Of of that in its of course that in itself is a tall order, as how are you supposed to save someone whose very existence has been rejected? And honestly, this is one of those, again, going off what I just said, this is one of those things where even though Horikoshi has written himself into a lot of corners with this final arc, it's after reading this chapter where I feel he's done it the most with Toga, because I'm honestly kind of racking my brain to find what could even be considered a satisfactory way this can end. Like, for as much as I do like that Ochiko is going to have the spotlight back for this fight, how is she supposed to convince someone like Toga, who's so far off the rails that she feels her existence has no meaning? No meaning unless she takes on the identity of someone else. Like, this is one of those things where it feels like any form of just talking it out is going to feel contrived. Like, regardless of what happens from here, Toga does need some serious psychological help. Like, I think that's I think that's kind of the core thing of what Horikoshi. I don't know if Horikoshi understands this or not, but that's the one thing that Horikoshi really needs to address with how this ends, is that regardless of what happens, regardless of what Ochiko says, Ochiko Suyu, whoever says it, Horikoshi needs to understand that the way he's written Toga, it's not just the talk no jutsu situation where that's going to talk her down. Like, she actually does need help. And I think that's also the other thing, too, is that as for sincere as they make it out to be, like, Horikoshi also needs to know that Horikoshi, I think, really is in this balancing act where he needs to like convince Toga that Ochiko and Tsuyu genuinely want to help, while at the same time also addressing the fact that Toga herself does need professional help. Like, it's sort of this balancing act right now, I think Horikoshi finds himself in, that I have doubts as to whether or not he can achieve that balancing act of, like, yeah, we're genuinely want to help you, but you also need help yourself, kind of thing. And like and also even more so that Toga has to want to help herself. She can't just continue to live through. She has to know that she can she can live her life. But yeah, like, again, I don't know, there's just too much kind of what if there's, I don't know, as I said, with this chapter especially, there's a whole lot of what ifs, unfortunately, that I don't know whether or not Horikoshi can properly address. But I don't know, we'll just have to wait and see. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much all I got for this review. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, Analyst, Crunchyroll. Be sure to hit the notification bell, hit the subscribe button, and just share the video around, guys. Dark Knight of Anime, signing off. Later, everyone.